This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusanya. Welcome to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this live podcast. Well, you call it webinar, I call it live podcast. And the reason I say that is that the session's being recorded. As far as I'm aware, there are no presentations. So it's essentially going to be a conversation between the legend himself and me, the pleb. And of course, we will give an opportunity for you guys to chime in. So welcome to the conversation. This conversation is off the back of Brett's paper, How to Solve the Scale Problem in Financial Planning. And we are incredibly privileged, I believe, to have Brett with us today. Brett is, to me, a legend in the industry and in the profession, and somebody who is not afraid to get to the heart of the matter. Pretty what's the word? Not afraid to get to the heart of the matter in a straight talking way is what I'm trying to say. Hi, Brett. Thank you for joining. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, mate. Great to be here.
All right, guys. So what I have in mind is that, so we got an hour, 30 minutes for this, but what I'm hoping that we're going to do is that we're going to spend, maybe about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes with me, just basically peppering Brett with my questions and thoughts and getting a little bit granular. And then we'll open the floor. If you have any questions, any comments that you want to make, or any questions that you have for Brett, we'll open the floor. So we'll spend about half the time taking your questions and comments on the discussion and on the paper. Now, I am hoping that everybody has actually read this paper. Can I say show of hands? Is there a way that we can say show of hands or virtually show of hands if you've actually read the paper? Yes? Yes? Well, that's good, because about 6:30 last night, my daughter called me and said, "Can you pick me up at something?" And then it occurred to me. So I said, "Yeah, I'll come pick you up." And I thought, oh, crap. I haven't read Brett's paper. With all the best intention in the world, I haven't actually read this paper, or I hadn't. And so I said, well, I better, as I'm supposed to be asking him questions about this. And you know what I found? I had a little discovery that Brett has actually podcasted this paper. So he's recorded an audio version of not just this paper, but the two others that he had written. So, I do what any self-respecting podcast listener would do. I put it at 1.5 times speed, and I listened to it the first time. And then when I got back home, I never do this, by the way, I printed a paper copy of the paper, real paper. And then this morning again, I listened to it again, making notes and scribbling. So there we are. We're on the same page, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, Brett, I am going to start by asking you, what do you mean by scale? Scaling. a financial planning business?
Yeah, so like I've described in the paper, like I've called it the scale problem, but I'm really hesitant and loath to use that word because I just don't I don't think I've had anyone ring me up and say, Brett, can you help me scale my business? Like it's never happened in 20 years. So but I do think it's what we're talking about. So, you know, scaling for me is probably is growing, but could we do it faster than I'll just hire another advisor and wait for them to take 10 years to build their client bank, right? You know, I can accelerate that by hiring 5 at a time. That's a lot of management hassle, but I still think it's really slow and clunky. And because I guess a lot of the audience I'm working with, you know, I'm going to say they're in that sort of 500,000 to 3 million of revenue range. You know, there's certainly people outside of that, but that's sort of the bulk of people. There's a lot of people once, especially when firms get to like £1 million of revenue, that old approach just takes a million years. And I just thought, well, is there a better way? Now, I wasn't sitting there, I don't know, looking for a solution per se, but this idea's been kicking around with me for 2.5 years. I first listened to Justin Rothmarsh on a webinar through Vern Harnish like 2.5 years ago. And just the way he explained this idea of revenue is the responsibility of operations, not sales, really resonated. And I thought, oh, how does this apply to financial planning? So I've read more, sat there thinking about it, put it away. I went to Spain and pitched it to 10 advisors in Steve Martin's group. That was 1.5 years ago. You know, just to see how it would land. And then it was only, you know, more recently, I pitched it at our Uncover Your Business Potential conference last year. And then I thought I'm ready to get this down on paper. So the scale issue is about, as I've defined in the paper, helping more people and allowing independent advice to flourish. I don't know about you, I get very frustrated watching all these crap brands dominating the marketplace when we got, you know, today, look at the faces here today, you know, running cool businesses that do the right thing by their clients. I want to see those businesses prosper, but I don't think we can do that just, you know, ticking along necessarily, you know, as we've done it. Now, I need to say this right at the start of today. If anyone just wants to stay small and doesn't give a shit about any of this, I'm all for that, right? It's your choice. But if you're frustrated in your own business, and I think there is a lot more of that around than people let on, then I think today's an interesting conversation.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the question I have is like, why do you think that even using the word scaling, you know, has so much angst and negative connotation attached to it? Because as you said, and you did in the paper, you know, you asked the question, if you're going to recommend, you know, your mom or your family member to a financial planner that is not you, a financial planning firm that is not yours, all of us on this call will recommend another small independent firm, you know, an independent owner managed firm. We would not recommend, you know, the call it the household names, and that's and so we all believe instinctively, and if you don't, please let me know, that you know, financial planning, independent owner managed financial planning firms are better. And we will recommend our family members to these guys and girls. Yet we are all, you know, we have this angst when it comes to making it bigger and better and serving more people. Why?
Yeah, I think it's because of, again, what I've outlined in the paper. This is why I spent the first half of the paper really talks about why people are stuck mentally. And, you know, the first one is that a lot of firms, it's on the inside, like, don't be fooled, right, by everyone sitting here today looking calm and reserved. On the inside, right, there's shit going on. Okay, this is true for all of us, myself included, right? Yeah, we put out a front of how we want the world to see us, but there's shit going on behind the scenes that we're all dealing with. That's business. It's a little bit messier than sometimes people make it sound or make it look when they're presenting to you. So I think people are feeling that stress of, managing it slightly chaotically. Now, we can make improvements to those things, but people are thinking, if it hurts this much turning over 500,000, turning over 1 million will hurt twice as much and I'll be dead, right? That's how I phrased it, because I think that's how people think about it. And I think that's the blocker. And so again, we took a lot of time in that first half of the paper to say, but hold on, what if you could get organized? You could hire more people. And I know that's hard. Like, there's work in this, right? It's not a walk in the park. I'm not trying to pretend it's easy. But as I made the point, staying small is not easy either when you're bursting at the seams and people keep referring their mates to you. So I don't think there's an easy option here. And I don't know about you, if they're both going to be hard, I'd probably prefer to dig in, see what I can do, like treat it as a game. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what? But I would love to see people digging in, unpicking, this like a knotted ball of wool. Sometimes it takes some time to find the end. It seems to be getting nowhere as I unpick it. And then after 4 hours, it all starts to unravel and I can see where I'm going to be going. And I think it's the same in your business.
I saw a quote a while back by the founder and CEO of Blackstone, Steve Washburn, in his autobiography, yes. And he said something that I held on very tightly to. He said, building a small business, define that as you want. Building a small business is hard. Building a bigger business is hard as well. And so whether you choose to stay small by your own definition, right? Or whatever you defined, solo, we've created all these things that don't mean what we intend them to mean. Whether you decide to stay the way you are right now, or you decide to grow and scale, it's hard. And so he said, he made the decision, if I am going to do this, I want to do it in a way that is impactful. And again, it still comes down to individual definition of what impactful means. I ran, Finalytic, a small business. Me and 4 people, we grew this thing to £500,000 revenue. I can tell you this. It's insanely hard. It was hard. Now, Timeline is a business of, I think, 55 people. We'll probably add, I don't know, I wouldn't say, more people next year as we grow. Actually, I should say, it's less hard. Now, don't get me wrong, hard is different for different people in different, but at least I am not, doing the way I like this, doing things I am neither good at nor have interest in doing, right? The beauty of scaling and growing, defined by your own definition, is that you can focus where your natural talent and your expertise lie. The thing, though, is, Brett, how much does an illusion of control play into this? The fact that if you're a one advisor firm with 2 or 3, support staff, you think that you are the king of the castle or the queen of the castle, and you can control everything. You can control client servicing. and the minute you think about taking that to say 3 advisors, you lose control. How much does wanting to keep control or an illusion that we have control play into this?
Yeah, I think it's probably significant. Like anyone who's growing through that phase of, yeah, it's just you and a small team, and every time you add a new person, you know, you change the dynamics of that business. But getting through that phase, you know, through to maybe, you know, £1 million, £2 million of revenue, where you're more of a genuine business at that size, like you have to be to get there. Yeah, I think there is an element of that. Like, we're all control freaks who run our own business. Make no mistake, right? And delegation's easy to write blogs about. It's freaking hard to do, right? So I think, you know, that's one of the key challenges, is building that team around you that you have confidence in, that you know you're comfortable, but you learn to be comfortable. I don't think you start in that place, but you learn to be comfortable, especially as you get a good team around you. You start to realize what Abraham just alluded to, that once I've got the right people in those seats, actually then this is a lot more fun, because now I'm getting to do the bits that I love and I'm good at. They're doing bits that they love and are good at, and it's a lot more enjoyable. But that probably through that, I don't know, 300,000 to 600,000 or 700,000, that's when it's really, really hard, because you're trying to build that first team. You know, sometimes we kiss a couple of frogs on the way. That's not fun, you know, and it can take time. But I think, again, talking to this audience, right, you know, quality firms, I think sometimes too, when we say the word scale, it makes it sound like we're going to do it fast and it's going to be shit at the end. That is not what I'm talking about. I've gone to great pains in that paper to make the point that I'm not interested in that, right? If you want to be the next SJP or someone else, great, knock yourself out. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about growing the business and doing it in a quality way. If that takes a long time because it's hard and I want to get it right, I'm not prepared to move on until I get that bit right. Good for you, I'm thinking. But it'll be that exponential growth. People will look at you thinking nothing's happening. But when you get it right, I promise you that can take off.
There's a phrase that Michael Smith, you know, we know Michael Chamberlain's now part of, not exited the business, but part of a bigger business. But there's a phrase that Michael used in a conversation that stuck with me. He said, a lot of us advisors are reluctant business owners, reluctant entrepreneurs. So in other words, what he was alluding to was the fact that most people, most advisors, I don't know if this is the fact, but you know, I'm going to say it's an assumption that most advisors just want to advise their clients. With the reason why we find many people going out on their own and setting on their own business isn't necessarily because they want to, run a business or manage a business. They just want to deliver advice the way they want to deliver it, rather than being, derogatorily says, a clog in a big giant machine that they have no control over. And so again, by you and I encouraging people to scale and grow a bit, are we actually going against the natural instinct of an advisor, which is to be an advisor and advise their client? And so just the fact that they just do it, being a business owner, is secondary. The primary goal is to be an advisor.
Yeah, so are we going against that natural tendency? Yes. And again, the point I made in the paper, because I've been observing this for 20 years, right? Probably in the last 5 or 10, I've blogged about this because it's hitting me in the face so often. But you can't stop growth. So you can wish that I wasn't growing. You can wish that people didn't keep sending you their friends and family. You can wish it wasn't so hard to hire people. You can wish whatever you want. It ain't going to change a damn thing. People are going to keep turning up. And I'm just saying, look, why don't we just accept it? Like, you know, I sometimes lament how difficult life is. Sometimes it doesn't do me any good when I can reframe that and think, hey, life is challenging sometimes. Let's get on the front foot with it. Let's fucking rip and tear a bit and see what we can do. It gets a bit more interesting. And I think a bit the same with this. Now, this is just my philosophy, right? Like I said right at the start, if people are going, oh my God, that makes me feel ill, I don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. I respect that. But I think a lot of people saying that are still butting up against this issue of that they're really good, people love them, and they keep sending their friends and family to see them, and they have a growth issue that they need to manage rather than resist. That's just my view.
One of the great takeaways from your book is actually you recommended something, or you referred to about reading the paper, 4 different book recommendations. One of them is Bob Billingham's book, Small Giants. I remember reading this a couple of years ago. I should actually go back to it. And I want to talk about vision, right? The importance of having a vision and how you would go about crafting a vision for a financial planning business. It's in my view one of the 3 key ingredients for growing and scaling a business. We encourage clients to have vision for their lives and what they want to accomplish. You know, how do you, as a owner of a financial planning firm, £300,000 of revenue or £500,000 revenue, how do you craft a vision for what you're looking to build over the coming years?
Yeah, so this is a tricky area. So I'm with you. I believe we have to try and have a vision for where we're headed. But you've read lots of business books too. There's loads of people, perhaps like all of us, started a business. They didn't have a clue what they were trying to do when they started out, and some of them ended up great. Okay, so I don't know whether it's something I need to have right at the start. At the start, I just need to survive, right? Let's get through that phase. But I do buy into this idea that I can dig in a bit, and it's hard, right? Don't let anyone tell you different. That vision piece is really, really difficult, and I just keep coming back to it. Our vision at FP Advance, it gets refined every year, right? I don't know what I was thinking 10 years ago when I wrote that crap, but anyway, it's better than it was 10 years ago. We're getting there slowly. But the way one of the facets of this, right, an exercise we often do when we're helping people put together the vision plan and the vision is to think about, a big, hairy, audacious goal for 10 years time or 15 years, whatever the time frame is. We usually ask people to think 10 years down the road. Now, 10 years is way over the horizon. Okay, I can probably see 2 or 3 years ahead at a pinch. But beyond that, this is absolute speculation and guesswork. And we know that when we do the vision, okay? We're not, I don't know, we don't have to be like married to it or worrying that we won't get there. Maybe we won't. But when you set that big, hairy, audacious goal, we ask people to make it about 20% believable. And the big, hairy, audacious goal is not the revenue number. Okay, so when I say set a big, hairy, audacious goal, people who are turning over millions say, oh, let's make it 5 million. That's not the goal. That's just the revenue number. And it gives me a sense of the scale. I want to see that. But the big, hairy, audacious goal is a bit like, Steve Jobs wanted to put a dent in the universe. I don't even know what that means, but he did it, right? That's pretty cool. What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? It might be to make a difference to, the community that you live in. Like, these are things we talked about in the paper. It might be to build a business that absolutely can run without you in it at all. That's big, hairy, and audacious, right? That's really hard to do. If you're looking after 100 clients, you might set some crazy ass number like I want to look after 1,000. That's big, hairy, and audacious. It could be any of these things. There might be other things that mean something to you. One guy I know we worked with, not interested in the money at all, gives a lot of it away. He's got his religious beliefs. He donates a lot of cash. And he said, look, you know, my big, hairy, audacious goal is to give away £500,000, right, over 10 years. I'm going like £500,000, not very sexy. Why don't we make it £1 million when we played around with it, right? And all of a sudden, he's really excited about it. Now, the point is, when I set that goal, 20% believable feels like I'm hanging on by my pinky fingernail to this idea. It's almost unbelievable. If I ask you about your BHAG for 10 years and you say, oh, I think I can do it, it's not a BHAG, right? It's got to challenge you. Now, when we get it right, it scares the shit out of you 50% and it excites you 50%. And we've got to get that balance right. Too much terror, I can't get out from under the covers every day. Not enough terror, I can't get out from under the covers every day, right? I need a bit of fear factor. I need to be a bit shit scared to get going and to get after it. But it's got to mean something. That's why you just can't put down some bollocks that's going to look good at a session, at a presentation. It's got to mean something to you in your DNA. And that's hard, right? It's hard to find that.
Just incredible stuff. Thanks, Brett. There's a book I would recommend called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. So Cameron Herold and the guy you mentioned, Van, they're sort of in this kind of group of business owners, operators, vice president. Sorry, what do they call them? The president organization. I don't know too much about their structures.
YPO, yeah.
YPO, Young President Organization. But Vivid Vision is a really powerful book that I came across, earlier this year. I made everybody in my leadership team read this. Each of us then write out what our vivid vision for our business is. And then we took a day out, of the business just to sit down, a day of just visions, right? People talking about their vision and what they want to accomplish. Now, I am not new to the subject of vision, right? And this is why it amazes me, right? As a 16, 18-year-old kid in Nigeria, we were being taught about vision, about having a vision for your life and what you want to accomplish in life. And I had an habit of writing down my vision, what I want to accomplish. Now, I was looking down because I have a pile of notebooks from 20 years ago with visions, crazy, ridiculous things that I wanted to accomplish for my life. And I used to keep these notes they were just like in the storage in the garage somewhere. Recently, 2 years ago or so, my brother-in-law, or a year ago, I can't remember, 18 months ago, my brother-in-law came around and, we started, I say we, by that I mean my wife, Fumi, led, just to rearrange the garage and things like that. And Caleb, who's my brother-in-law, found all my notes. And he sat down and he started reading them. And like, most of these goals were exceeded multiple times over, 20 years period. And I had forgotten, at least in the word by word, of what I set out to accomplish. But oh boy, do dreams or visions come true. And so, but like the things that are that haven't come true in that note are no longer relevant. Many of them are no longer relevant. And so my challenge to you, everyone, is like, what you have to lose, right? If you sat down and you wrote down what you want to accomplish for your business, of course, tied into what you want for your life and, maybe the immediate society around you over the next decade, what you have to lose if they don't come true. And one of the other sort of limiting beliefs you alluded to in the book, in the paper, is this idea I've only got I've only got 5 years to go, and then I'm out.
Yeah, this is yeah, I hear this one a lot. And and look, interestingly, I was at a conference last week with Dominica from RI Solutions. She ran her annual event for all the ops managers, and it was absolutely fantastic. She did an opening presentation about AI, okay? And it was really, really insightful, interesting, challenging, scary. After her opening talk, this is the beginning of the conference, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, I felt like I'd been slapped across the face with a wet fish. Like it really, really got your attention. And, the point she was making in that the world is about to change, I think, faster than it's ever changed before. And if I've only got 5 years or 10 years to run and I intend to work, right, I'm not selling my business tomorrow. I don't think you can just sit there and coast along. The point I made in the paper, and I think this is the primary driver, I don't want fear to be the motivator here about, the AI thing. But the primary thing is I don't want you to be bored and coasting. The minute you start coasting, life is shit, right? It's just as boring as hell. You've got to reset. And you don't have to go and say, look, I'm going to bet the farm on this future idea for 5 years or 10 years. It can be incremental evolvement of what you've already done, which is beautiful and working and great. But I still think you need something to challenge and stretch yourself. Without being challenged, life is deadly dull.
Good stuff, Brett. So let's come to the big idea, your central idea in the paper, which is about inverting, turning the old school growth model on its head. So do you want to spend a bit of time to talk about the old school growth model, and then we can talk about the model, the new model that you're proposing?
Yeah, so look, I think the way I'm thinking a bit about this now, since I've written the paper, so this has only become clearer because I've been talking about it with more and more people. I'm thinking there's almost a growth, a model for when you're under £1 million of revenue. This is what you should do. Right. And then the paper really is, I guess, for people who are approaching $1 million, hit $1 million or above $1 million, going, mate, how do we grow a bit better and faster from here?
So that's interesting. Sorry to cut you, because yeah. I will share a simple Excel. Yeah, I mean, numbers, like I like numbers, Excel calculations that I did. And I kind of said, well, Brett's numbers and ideas work at certain revenues, and it doesn't work below a certain revenue. So just to be clear, you're saying as you approach $1 million and beyond is when this model works.
I think so. Now,
right.
If we do this first part, though, the way I'm describing, I think you hit $1 million well able to do this, right? One of the big things that's coming back to me, I've got a beta group of a few firms who are all above £1 million who are interested in the idea, and we're just having conversations about how to make it happen. All of them, like, quite naturally are running into, yeah, but how do we do this? Or yeah, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to change this? Because we've got this structure already in place. And I get that. So if you're not there yet and not structured that the old way, if you like, you're approaching or working towards £1 million, you can hit that, then ready to rock and roll in that next phase, rather than have to unpick half the stuff you've done, like bigger firms might have to do if they want to embrace this. But okay, under £1 million. I did a webinar on this. The best thing on this last week, I think it was PFS Power. It's my most recent webinar. It's called The Owner's Dilemma. That's worth a listen to. It explains this in detail. But here's the short version. Under £1 million of revenue, if you are the owner of the business, your only goal, I believe, is to make you maximally productive. Right? And what I'm saying is, do not hire other advisors when you're under £1 million thinking that's the path to growth, right? That's the slow way to growth. It adds 50,000 management problems to your day that you don't really like or need. Because remember, you're an accidental entrepreneur. You don't even like this stuff. So don't hire all these advisors who are a complete pain in the ass. At 300,000, you can get yourself to 600,000 of productivity by hiring good people around you. At 600,000 productivity, you've probably got a shadow advisor on board somewhere in that 400 to 600 journey so that you're maximally productive. At some point, if the shadow advisor who's supporting you is the right person, and often they will be, I might then give them 400,000 of revenue to look after, and now they're instantly productive. I can put them on a salary, which they'll love, they'll feel respected, and now you're free as the owner to sort of build again to 500,000 or 600,000 of revenue. You're the new business person. You're the best person in the business to see all the new leads. All right. If they're too small for you, they're probably too small for the business. Don't talk to them. Okay. You see all the new business, you convert it all, and you can build again. Now, with the two of you managing 500,000 of revenue, that's £1 million business, right? With just two advisors and not much management hassle. Now, you've probably got a second shadow that's helped you build again. They could look after that chunk of revenue, and you could be that person in my new model I'm talking about, who is, again, in that pure sales only role, right? You'll be still the best person in the business to do that typically. Being a servicing advisor is a lower bar and a lower skill set for you to create than someone who can actually see new clients and convert them efficiently and effectively. That's still probably you at £1 million, £1.5 million, £2 million of revenue. Okay, but if all you did was have selling conversations, as I outlined in the paper, you could have 69 or 70 of those a year, doing it 3 days a week, doing it right, and bringing you could bring on a big chunk of 70 people a year. No one's doing those numbers, right? As one advisor. So that's why I think there's the under £1 million strategy, and then there's the over £1 million strategy that you want to ever think about.
So just to again go back to the problem or the old model way of doing things, which is like we bring the younger advisor in, we pay her, 40 grand a year, and then we say, all right, go and find your own clients. I like the way you describe it. And we say, first, you have to validate your earnings. So you have to do 3 times your salary. So 120,000 of revenue. And then above 120,000 revenue, then you get 35% of that. And for most people, for most younger advisor, that is soul destroying. It's really hard, to go from 40,000 to £500,000. It's taking you, most people on this call, if you're in that category, it's taking you over a decade, maybe 15 years to get there. So why do we expect that, a young graduate with 3 or even 5 years experience in the industry, in the profession, will be able to do this? So what you're saying is, sorry, you wanted to say something about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying, don't do that. There's also the issue of the types of clients typically that the younger advisors bring in are younger clients. Now, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but probably most of us are geared up to serve people approaching or in retirement who've got shit tons of money, and bringing in young accumulation clients who don't have shit tons of money sort of doesn't enhance the model. Right. So that's part of it as well, but that's not thought through in advance. It's discovered with hindsight, 3 years of pain. And that doesn't make much sense. Yeah.
And so what you're proposing is invert this. And when we say, again, when I was reading the paper, the thing that was coming to my mind is this is really, or partly, having greater clarity between advice and ownership of a business, right? I'll tell you, I will show the numbers what I mean by that. But my instinct was that your ideas work and you alluded to it, when the advisor's kind of already above £500,000, I'm going to use that dreaded word, production of or revenue. People, like we've done something recently, like with Advisor 3.0 and a few podcasts that I've done, that I kept saying this thing about the £1 million solo advisor. And the people say to me, hey, Abraham, why do you keep talking about £1 million solo advisor, like, greedy capitalist type of thing? And I'm not, I'm just looking at this and say, I like this example. It seems to work. Look at it. Not everybody's going to get to that 1 million solo, but it creates a path. It's a target, to think about. But anyway, my point is that what I thought was that your ideas of inverting this model doesn't work very well below £500,000 of revenue per advisor. So if you're sitting on this call and you have less than £500,000 of revenue, or like you're far away from that, so maybe there is a different problem, a different challenge to solve, right? It's how do you get productive, and how do you get to that point? So I say, right, this is your model, by the way, Brett. I haven't shown you this. I don't claim that you're going to agree with it. So feel free to tell me to shove it, like most people do. So, but anyway, £500,000, £500,000 in production. Then you say the advisor pay should be no more than 40%. So an advisor producing £500,000, we would attribute £200,000 of pay to them. How you structure that is up to you. Then you have overhead at 35%, and then you have the profit margin at 25%, right? So then I said, well, most advisors are sensible and all that. So you retain 50% of the profit, and then the pay away or take home for £500,000 advisor is actually more like 265,000, right? Now, tell me it's bonkers. You will get your chance. Then I say, right, the model that you're proposing is I bring in a servicing advisor to this model, and I give them the bottom 2/3 of the client, which will probably account for around 60% of the revenue, right? They tend to, you can even do 75% of your client and they will account for 60% of the revenue. You give them, after they are competent and experienced, they start in a couple of meetings, they know your way as a firm and a business and all that stuff. You give them £300,000 worth of revenue clients to serve. But you don't pay them, and they don't expect to be paid 40% of the revenue they look after. You pay them 75 grand, which works out to be about 25%. We can play with these numbers, by the way, to see. It works out to be 25% of the revenue. The senior advisor or the owner advisor keeps, less clients, but 200, the most productive clients, £200,000 of revenue. Anyway, there should be no difference in the overhead, because you're still serving the same client. And then I said the profit should still be the same in this hypothetical world. But for the maths to work, you probably have to retain less proportion of the profits, more like 25%, not 50%. Because what is the point of retaining so much profit? I mean, financial planning firms, good ones, great ones, who say to me, Abraham, 2 firms, we're turning over £1 million and we're sitting on £1 million of cash, just retained. And I'm standing there. I didn't say it to them because I was too shy and I respected them. Why? Invest and grow. Of course, they are actually. But anyway, my point is that when you look at it that way, the math seems to work. Now, for a number of years, whilst this is going, the owner advisor might take slightly less home. maybe not, because what this frees them up is they now have 75% capacity to take on more clients. Look at my numbers and tell me how bonkers it is, Brett.
Yeah, look, I don't think bonkers at all, and it's an interesting way to come at the issue. But as you say, in this model, the second version here, the owner is now freed up to go and rainmake and do a lot more business, or focus on the marketing challenge. If we're not generating enough leads, the owner's got loads of time to sit and think about, how do we solve the marketing challenge? Who could I get to help me with that? So what you're expecting is the owner can then go and bring on a bucket load of new clients. So it's not very long, I don't think, before you get back to the position in the other column, but also you're creating a bigger pie. And eventually that 25% of bigger pie becomes a much, much bigger number. And that's what you're trying to do. The truth is too, most owner advisors, I don't think, are taking out 40%. Right. They might be if they're just pulling lots out of the business and they're literally that lifestyle business, they might be then. But I sort of get people to think about, look, what if you put yourself down for a third of the revenue? About the old accountants rule of thumb of a third to the salesperson, a third to overhead, a third to profit, very, very roughly, still works.
The more you have in the profit bucket, the more this works, right? But anyway, we'll come to this. One of the other, and I will open the floor shortly for people to also critique my numbers, my makeshift Excel calculator. It's patented, by the way, so you can't have it.
You can't even think it. You have to send £1 to Abraham every time you even think about his spreadsheet.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I have a few final questions, and then we'll open the floor. Is another a key part of this is where you are then having clear separation between ownership and advice, but then, or at least thinking about it that way, approaching it that way. Then you have this idea about clear separation between sales or servicing. Sales, operation or servicing, and marketing. This is really important. Talk to us about this clear separation of roles within the business.
Yeah, so this part I really, really like. The more I look at it, the more I think about it, the more I think this solves a problem that I see a lot in firms. So yeah, we've got operations, which I'm thinking of as in your current structure, all your back office people and a servicing advisor or two who are looking after clients. But you are a team. Your only goal is to love the shit out of those clients. You're going to be measured by client retention, which is pretty high in all our firms, right? No one leaves unless they die. We want to have incremental revenue growth. So those people will also pick up the easy stuff where clients come in going, mate, I've got another 100 grand. What do I do with it? We'll pick all that up. So there will be incremental revenue growth. And I'm going to put in a third metric there, that I want to see that servicing team generating client referrals of two things. One, the servicing advisors are good and they're trained to do a good job, but also operations is now geared up to be uber responsive, right? That's where all the queries come. They don't sit in Brett's inbox because he's an advisor who's at a conference for 3 days. They go to the ops team, someone picks it up and boom, it's dealt with like in 20 seconds. That's Amazon-like service. And I think those things are the bit that increase referral rates, right, from existing clientele. The sales team then are now free to just do selling, and they're judged by one metric. How effective are they in that selling process? Okay, and I love that. There's real clarity. Like if you're the owner advisor managing 500 or 600 grand of revenue and trying to see the odd client, what the fuck am I measuring you against? Right? You go, hey, I'm great. I've got 600 grand of revenue. Yeah, great. Like, where's this going? What are we doing? Right? I don't know. It all gets very messy for me. So in the sales version, we know what you're going to be measured against. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to pin people to the wall and whip them to death going, you're not performing. I'm not thinking that. I just want to be able to identify is this working? If it's not, we'll have clear metrics on that, and we'll say, let's go and make this work. But the third one is really interesting, right? The marketing one. Now, this sort of drives me a bit spare. Everyone is out there working with the usual suspects in the marketing, arena in our profession. Angie Herbers said this to me years ago. Marketers are great at rebranding you and giving you a new website. After that, not so great. And I at the time when she told me that, I'm going, oh, I don't know, because I like marketing, right? But I'm thinking, is that true? And 5 years later, I'm sitting going, yeah, she's absolutely bang on. I've got loads of clients paying lots of money to different firms. I just walk in going, mate, show me the money. Like, how's this generating leads for your business? I don't give a shit about the number of Facebook ads, Google ads, social media posts, visits to your website. Show me the money. Now, in this new model, right, where marketing is judged by one metric, generating new leads that are on target, now I can identify, is this a good spend? Am I getting a return on my investment? Right, we strip out all these other BS metrics that just don't mean anything. And also, we're splitting marketing into communications and promotions. And so we're going to do content, articles, education, news stuff for our clients, and anyone else that's floating around. Prospects and professional connections can get that too. And then we've got a clear promotions division. I think once we get all this right, we probably see a big uptick in referrals. But that big uptick in referrals is probably still not enough to bridge that gap. If I need 70 new clients per advisor to be seen, I don't think we're going to get that just from referral. We're going to have an outreach program to go and attack some of those clients in those big brands and say, mate, we got something really cool going on here. Do you want a bit of it, right? And I think that's when that separation allows us to measure performance and fix the real underlying issue. In the current structures, a lot of that's a little bit unclear or a bit of a mess.
Great stuff. And this is touching on what I think of as the second pillar of scaling a business. So the first one is the vision, right? We talked about that. The second one being people, right? Really having the right people in the right seats doing the right thing. So in this model that you describe, the operations, I see that as empowering the paraplanners and the administrators to take ownership of service delivery to clients. And of course, you have the servicing advisor. So we create a less intense path for people who are coming into the profession, who come in as a servicing, or they might come in as a power planner and then upgraded to a servicing advisor. They come in as a servicing advisor. I should say I have seen this work very well. As I was reading your paper, the name, my friend Julian Gilbert, Wealth Matters, keeps coming into my mind because this is what he's doing. He brings these young people in, hands over the clients to them. Now, I get that operation side. I see the benefit of that. Then you have the sales channel. Now, in my head, it works easier when the sales, I'm going to say the sales-led advisor, the rainmaker advisor, is the owner of the practice. Do you envisage this working with employed advisor? And I know that you don't like variable remuneration. So how would you remunerate the employed advisor who comes into the sales role?
Yeah, so in most firms, I think you're right. The owners or founders are, for the moment, likely to be the salespeople in this model. But let's say you've successfully grown and scaled, like you're an Emery Little or someone like that, and you're going through 3 million of revenue. You probably got a team of advisors there now, and you know how this goes. I don't know what the percentages are, but there's a large chunk of people that are lovely and will make great servicing advisors, but they're probably never going to be that catch and kill type person that we need at the front end. And that's all horrible old sales language. I hate even using that. Forgive me, I'm putting it back in. All right. Okay. So, but people who've got those skills to sit down with a new prospect, ask great questions, build that connection, say, mate, here's what we can do for you. Do you want a bit of that? And they say, yeah, I'd love it. Sounds great to me. So we need people in that role. As the firm grows, those people do pop up, or they can be trained and developed. So I think in the future, that can be someone who's not the founder, who has either naturally emerged or been, trained to develop into that role. But all I'm thinking there is I don't believe we need variable remuneration. We just need to pay them well for something that I think is quite a rare skill, right? That's always been the case. In the old world, in the commission-only world, they were the only people that survived, right? So there was a natural selection.
Yeah.
But in the modern world, where we're not trying to build that kind of culture, if I find someone who can do that job, I'm going to pay them very, very handsomely for that work. So I don't think there's going to be any issues there about, putting in dickhead bonus structures or incentive schemes or whatever. None of this shit works. I just don't see it working.
How do you stop either the servicing or the sales advisor going off to do their own thing and taking the clients with them?
So first of all, in this sales model, the salesperson onboards the client and then they get handed straight over to the servicing team, because the salesperson is not building a client bank. So that's the other thing in this new model. I'm separating that completely. But again, if you're someone who loves, and I'm one of these people, I love that first meeting with a new business client in my current work or back in the day as an advisor. I learned to love it. I wasn't good at it naturally. But when you sit down with a brand new customer, it's like, I don't know, I feel like House MD, they hit me with all this stuff. It's a complete mess in their mind, but I can see that goes with that, goes with that. We can do this and do that. And next thing you know, it's all organized and sorted out. I love that problem solving bit. And I think that's what the advisors who perform this role will love. Now, if you can get paid tons of money for just doing something you love, and then you don't have any of the ongoing or any of the crap, the follow through, like I get bored by that point, right? I need someone else to pick up the follow through. I'm just thinking this is like heaven on a stick for the right person. Why am I going to lose that person? Now, also in my bigger organization, if I've got key people that I want to keep, how do I do that? I can do that with equity. That's cool, right? If they are that vital and they want to, grow into leadership roles in the business, they can play that. There's opportunity for everyone, particularly as I envisage, this firm is growing much faster than your average firm. This is not a slow growth forest. This is like, a pine forest that's growing dramatically quickly. There's going to be opportunities opening up left, right, and center for anyone who's any good in that organization.
Brett, thank you for your wisdom and sharing your thoughts. I have a lot more questions. I want to ask you a few more, but I'm going to shut the front door, as they say, and yield the floor to others on the call to chime in their thoughts, their views, maybe ask you a few questions. So we're going to open the floor, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have questions or comments that you'd like to make, please.
Cool. Brett, good to see you. As a complete fanboy for nearly 25 years, mate. 20 years. It's not been that long yet. I've got two questions. The first one is a bigger piece of what you see has changed since you arrived in the UK. But the specific nerdy question I've got is, at what point do you see the new business advisor handing over to the servicing advisor? Is it once the initial planning has been done, and they're off to implementation, or is it straight after the initial meeting and they've signed up for a plan and away you go?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking it's after the client has been fully onboarded. And maybe the sales advisor is very heavy in the first bit, like first meeting, presenting the advice, but at the implementation meeting, I'm imagining there's an onboarding person or team assisting the salesperson, because this is not their natural skill set, probably, but they need to be there to finish that off. Once the client's fully onboarded, that advisor perhaps could do the final call to say everything's been done, how you're feeling, and see if there's a referral to be picked up. But at that point, they can just mention and we'd have to find the right scripts for this or the right way to do it. But, the servicing team's looking after you. I'm not going to say it like that because that's going to sound shit, but you know what I mean? We're going to have to find a way to do that. But some of those servicing people might have been in that implementation phase. And again, I'm creating that impression that this is a team effort. When I go to my accountant, there's always other people in the meeting and I know they're going to do all the work, and I don't find that weird or offensive or what in any way.
Cool.
I just playing God's advocate here. I'm not playing devil's advocate. God's advocate. It's like, I can see this horrify, some of my friends in the sort of lifestyle financial planning world. I'm thinking of Warren Shute, maybe Paul Cleworth, who, take incredible pride and joy being with the client, serving the client, and holding their journey through life, as we say, through retirement or whatever it is. This idea that you're going to kind of onboard them with the help of the team and then send them off to a less qualified advisor somehow. Is this conflicting with the lifestyle financial planning thing that we've sold clients?
Yeah, so I don't think it is. Now, if you are, and we're speaking for Warren and Paul, and we can't do that, but let's say they just said, look, I don't want to do that. I love the way that I'm doing it, mate. I'm absolutely cool with that. I can say, I know lots of other advisors who've been servicing clients for 20 or 30 years, and they're going, mate, I'm bored of that. I can do it, right? There's no stretch. So, and again, this assumption that we're going to hand off to someone who's lesser, I know in a firm, maybe the founder is always that step or two ahead of everyone. So maybe that's true literally, but I'm not handing off to someone who's shit. That is not the goal here, right? They need to be trained. They need to have come through the ranks. They need to understand the ethos. And there's loads of great young people out there I see in the industry who can absolutely do this role. They just need an opportunity and that guidance and mentoring. In your sales role, right? If you're still the lead salesperson, like the partner at my accounting firm, if I really want to talk to him, I just say, mate, I got this complex issue, and it'll either get escalated to him or he'll give me a call back. And I can see that happening quite casually. We only have one goal in these firms: to love the shit out of the people that are on the journey with us. This is a different structure, but it does not change that focus one iota.
I mean, I'd love to hear from, planners who on this. Karen, I was thinking about you and in this thing. Do you see, I don't know, anyone else? Do you see a world where you would hand over to, should I say, mini Karen, who's equally, deep into, the kind of work that you do for clients, financial planning wise?
That would be ideal. It's finding the right person, and the control freak in me finds that very, very difficult. And also, I think the people who you would think, like that you said at the beginning, who would you refer your friends and family to? Those people have their own businesses and are doing it their way. And so how do you then find somebody from scratch? And, as Brett said, kiss a few frogs along the way. I've done that in my time with the previous business. You learn the hard way. So at the moment, I'm stuck with outsourcing because I haven't bitten that bullet yet.
Debbie Harris has something to say.
I'm just wondering whether you had a sense of how advisors take to the new model, whether they're going, well, I've never been paid like that before. I like getting my little bonus once a quarter or whatever. Have you had a sense from advisors that, oh, we like this new way forward? We like this a lot.
Yeah, so Yes, what I've seen in businesses to date, where we've been, let's say, this is typically we're addressing the issue in under £1 million firms. You've got this, the advisor on that old model of 40,000 plus, some percentage and validation. My beef is usually I'm working with the firm and the owner is up to their eyeballs just in servicing clients. I'm going, what a waste of talent, right? I need you doing something else, ideally, right? When we then get a bunch of clients, assuming that this other person is up to the task, and we say, look, we're going to give you 300,000 of revenue to manage, and we're going to put you on 75 grand, mate, they can't bite your arm off quick enough to say yes. Right? Now, typically, that's a big pay rise for those people because they're grinding away, unsucceeding, if that's a word. And so they're over the moon. So typically this involves a significant pay increase that makes them feel valued and respected. The model they're on makes them feel, like they're failing their way along. And that's just not cool, generally speaking. If someone's really performing in that structure and that role, maybe they're one of your future salespeople. And again, I got a great offer to make to them as well. Because I can pay them proper money, flat proper money, to do that job. And it's probably, again, more than they're getting paid at the moment. If I can restructure, the firm, that other parts of the business will let this sales division then, run as fast as it can run.
There's an important point, Brett, that you alluded to earlier. You just, I think you said it in passing. This idea, I'm calling it survival bias. In other words, the gene pool that we have today of financial advisors are people who survived this old, painful, horrible sales, variable remuneration culture that they brought into, right? That they came into. Right, so the advisors today were doing a great job serving their client. They are the people who survived that model. All the sort of servicing, the people who naturally be servicing advisors have either left the profession because they didn't survive, or they've decided to go down the paraplanning route and all that stuff. And so a big upside that I see of this model is that we are now going to, it's now incredibly easier, not easy, to increase the gene pool of the servicing advisors who maybe don't have the interest to go out and win clients. Now, there's opportunity in the business to move from servicing to new business advisor, as Tim calls it, or sales-led, leader, as I like to think about it. But we can increase that gene pool of servicing advisors.
Yeah, I think so. And, I can only speak about my journey through the industry, but yeah, I was not a natural in the old industry, quite the opposite. Like this, it was just not really working. Thank God financial planning came along and I was able to make that jump. And it took me also a long time. In the firm I worked with, they were exceedingly patient. I was crap for ages, but I certainly, I'm sure I had something enough about me for them to want to persist. But bless them for persisting. There's lots of other businesses that wouldn't have. And I did eventually learn those skills, which were not natural to me. And I feel like I can do that reasonably well. I'm not saying I'm the best on the planet, but they're learnable, they're teachable. Like if you care about, doing the right thing by the client, I think that's the central value that's non-negotiable with everyone on the team, whether they're a salesperson, a servicer, a back office person. And those people, they're out there. They're not everywhere, right? Not everyone seems to care as much as we all do. We've all hired people like that. We think they care, but they seem to not. That's a challenge. Hiring people is still going to be a thing. If you can get that central tenet that they actually want to do something cool for the client, then I think they're trainable, coachable, malleable into what we want them to become. And again, it's not a quick fix. Still a slow burn. We've got to find and develop those people. But as we grow and we get that bedded down and it gets stronger. And this certainly happens in larger firms. Once you get 1 million plus, you've probably got 8, 9, 10 people on board. You know, there's a lot more stability in that, and that can accelerate in its development.
David, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what had been said, really. I think we're in this new world now. So we've kind of taken this challenge on and moved away from kind of a lifestyle business. Probably 6, 7 years ago, we were at sort of a point in time where we either stayed as a lifestyle business, myself and my business partner, and we kind of kept the status quo and we had a lovely income and life was good, or we kind of took this scale kind of opportunity, and we did exactly as sort of Brett has alluded to here, where we brought younger advisors in, or younger staff in, who bought into the ethos of the company, and they grew with us, and then eventually they took on client banks, and we handed over those clients to them, to the point now where neither of us advise at all. And it's been, you know, it was a big sort of leap of faith, I guess, but has worked out really, really well. And I would encourage anyone to do the same. And I think the biggest thing I learned, I guess, along the way is we can often add a lot of value on ourselves as advisors when we're kind of doing it all, and we are the face, and we are the story, and we are the relationship. But I think if you get the structure right and the story right in terms of a wider context, then the clients are buying the firm as opposed to the individual, which is probably slightly different to, you mentioned sort of Warren and Paul earlier. I think those clients and we see them rather than the firm perhaps in some ways, whereas we had to move away from that to you're buying the firm and not buying us. And that allowed that transition to happen. And so we have 9 advisors now. They are all employed. We have a combination, probably 3 or 4 who are more hunter-gatherer sales types, and probably 4 or 5 who are more servicing, naturally kind of extended paraplanners, like the client-facing work, but are more that way inclined. So yeah, I guess I'd echo that it can be done. And we are kind of living proof, I guess. And we haven't worked with Brett, and I admire his work from afar. But I would echo sort of what he advocates, really, that this is what we see as the new world. And we still kind of butt heads against the whole, well, if you bring in X, why don't I get paid Y? We don't like that kind of attitude. We prefer the client outcome first, and then everything else sort of comes behind that, really.
And David, can I ask a question? Because this will be on some people's minds. How many of these advisors that you've given clients to have left and started their own firm?
0.
Great. Just want to knock that on the head.
The first one was probably 7 years ago, and the last one was probably 2 years ago. And I would like to think, and they are open and honest with us, but none of them have any intentions of leaving, starting their own firms, and they fully understand that the clients are owned by the firm because they were kind of transitioned to them, as opposed to them going out and finding their own client bank from 0, where they would probably have a more natural inclination to go, well, I own that client now. So I think the mentality is very different.
That's it. And so people being brought in that way, I think they're not entrepreneurs. They're not, rogue salespeople. They're people like go and join PwC. Like people don't leave PwC and start their own accounting firm very much, right? There are some, but people get jobs at PwC and they move through the gears and maybe they become a partner or a senior manager. And I think this is the same sort of model.
Yeah. And I think because they haven't gone through that commission structure of the older world, like you said a minute ago, when they get these pay increases from admin to paraplanner to advisor to more experienced, they're seeing that baseline salary increasing significantly at every stage, and that's guaranteed. So they actually see that as a really good benefit, as opposed to, do I get less and maybe try and find more? We find that works really well for us.
Yeah.
It's certainly a sort of more humane path, to come to, coming into the profession, where if you come in as a power planner, or as an administrator, you get a pay rise to a power planner, maybe senior power planner, maybe a servicing advisor. If you like and want, and you're so inclined, you go into the new business advisor. But, that journey takes probably, 10 years. And it's a more humane journey, sadly, than the old world. I mean, if there is any challenge that we know we have as a profession, is that we're not bringing enough new advisors. You can look at the numbers and the data. I'm not saying take on the burden of the entire profession. I'm saying this is an upside of this approach that Brett is proposing and that David's been implementing at his firms. We have room for a few more questions before we start to wrap things up. Mr. Page.
Sorry for being greedy. Brett, for those of us that are still small and thinking that this is an aspirational, a few years ago, definitely pre-COVID, you wrote a really interesting white paper stroke series of articles on how to grow from a one-man band, which I think from memory was really clever in that you bring in the administrator, train them to become power planner, then the servicing advisor that way. Is that still, with your head on with this white paper, is that still the way to go in your mind, or would you change it?
Yeah, I'm not sure I said exactly that. I've said when you are the one-person advisor, you need those people around you, administrator, paraplanner, and probably eventually, a servicing advisor. That's the well-trodden path I think everyone's gone down. Today, those support people could be outsourced or they could be in-house. Most firms I know, even bigger firms, use a blend of both. So it's neither one nor the other anymore. It's a blend of both. Outsourcing's absolutely got a role. But again, if you're a small firm under £1 million, your only goal is to get the team around you to let you go as hard as you can and grow your client bank and your revenue stream. That's it. Simple as that. Do whatever, get whoever you have to get from wherever you can get them to let you do that. You're the blockage. And we want to unblock you, right? That's goal number one. When you get to £1 million of revenue, then you can think about it, differently. But that's goal number one.
100%. The best thing you said in that white paper is we're the blocks. And you're right.
And said with love, right? I'm the blockage. I'm the blockage in my business as well, right?
Good stuff. Thank you, gents. Jonathan. I'm betting it's Jonathan J has a question, and I think is similar to Tim's question. How early should businesses be positioning themselves to scale?
Yeah, like if I'm under £1 million, I'm not even, I don't know, I'm not even thinking about it. Goal number one, let's get to £1 million of revenue. And that's a journey, right? With Dan Sullivan, doesn't he say the first million's the hardest? The first million takes people 10, 20 years, depends on how good you are or, how effective you've been. But the second million doesn't have to take anything like that. If we've got the business structured correctly, you can cruise through that to £1.5 million, £2 million of revenue. And that's the key. I see businesses get to 2 million, but often when they'll engage with me at 2 million of revenue, and what we're going to do is unpick all that stuff that they've done in the past. Not half the people, but some people end up falling off the truck because it just doesn't fit for where we want to go. And there's 2 or 3 years of unpicking before they can go again. If you get it right in those earlier phases, you can just keep on that growth path because you sort of know what you're focused on and what you're working on at different levels.
So, Brett, would you agree with my thoughts, which is similar? What you, again, I'm trying to pick all the things that you've said in different places is, look, if you are, sort of below £500,000 revenue per advisor, your job is to get to that, right? Which I would involve bringing in an administrator or a power planner, or outsourcing them efficiently, outsourcing them in a way that you're not doing this stuff, or bring them in to help you get to that. You said in the paper, probably by the time you get to $500,000, you probably need a practice manager type person to be coming in to position you for the next phase, which is a million. And we've seen examples of people who've done these Gretchen bets, like one advisor, support staff between them, a supporting staff supporting them. And then as you approach the million, then you start to think, well, how do we get to the next million, i.e. 2 million, which involves probably bringing in the service advisor. Now, these numbers are not, set in stone. You might decide to bring in a servicing advisor at 600,000, maybe lower. I don't know.
Yeah,
Brett.
because and I'm not referring to anyone who's been mentioned here today, but you can find yourself, you can get to £1 million of revenue as a business, but you're not in position to go to 1.5 and 2. You're now stuck. And all this, and that's why I think on the way, I do want to have shadow advisors in that mix. They're my future servicing advisors. I want to have an elevator for everyone to ascend as the business grows, and people can develop from any part of the business, but I'm not boxing them saying you have to start in admin, then you have to get your exams and be a paraplanner, then you have to be a servicing advisor, then fuck all that. I want people to do the bit that they love doing. We'll find that out on the journey together. If you want to be a career brilliant administrator or paraplanner, great, do it. There'll be a role for you in this growing organization. But
just an important observation, Brett. I think you're the only one in this entire profession who uses the F-bomb more than I do. You're just...
So I've had my Weet-Bix today, but I'm Australian as well. Like, I can't help myself. So I'm going to use that as my excuse card. I don't mean to offend anyone too with that sort of behavior, but yeah.
No, I'm not offended. I'm just feeling better because at least I get criticized for F-bombing. So I can say Brett does it more than I do. Mr. Dan Murdoch, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, no, just probably got a couple of questions. So we're a brand new business. We only started this year. So the first question is probably asking Brett, what would he advise? Because at the moment we feel that we're probably spinning a number of plates, and that leads on to the second question in the structure around, who in your sort of model, Brett, is responsible for all the other bits and pieces within the business, the compliance side of things, the marketing side of things, etc. Because at the moment we're obviously just all spinning the plates, aren't we?
So Dan, how many people in your business at the moment?
There's three directors and 5 support staff, 6 support staff.
Okay, so the thing is, you could spin less plates. Now, this is something that it's very difficult to do when you're starting out, because you get overexcited about all the stuff you want to build. I've done that. It's hard to get people to say no to things. But the question I would have, like the analysis I would do is like, where's the constraint right now in your business? Is it lead flow, as in we don't have enough leads coming in? Is it sales, as in sales conversions? We don't convert enough of the leads, and good conversion rate is 60% plus. A lot of firms, it's 25 or 30%. That's the bit I'd fix, because otherwise we've got a leaky bucket here. We get leads, but we don't convert them. Or is it capacity, that we can't actually process the workload when it comes in? Where is the constraint in your business right now?
It's probably capacity, yeah. Just with the way the business is growing and the sort of staggered manner of hiring people that we've had, it's probably capacity.
Okay, so the rule with this too is, once you've identified where the constraint is, you only work on that, right? So I don't want to hear you're getting a new website or you've got social media program developing. Like, that's not what you need. You need to fix capacity. Work on that. If it takes 2 months or 2 years, don't stop until you've got your capacity issue solved. And then you say, right, now where's the constraint in my business? And you might find it's moved to lead flow or sales. And now just work on that. That's the discipline, right? It's easy to say, it's hard to do.
Good stuff. Dan, Andrew has advice for you. Andrew Elson, he says, outsource as much as you can to the best people you can. Marketing, compliance, retain oversight, he says. So advice from Mr. Elson. Last should be the last question of the day before we just wrap things up. Oh, Carl, don't take us down this road.
That's our sort of question.
Carl says, how do you see AI impacting the operational part of the ops
la, la,
team?
La, 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 la. Sorry, I didn't hear that, mate.
Are you going to answer?
No, I got no idea. It's emerging. It's exciting. It's scary. I don't know what's going to happen, but we absolutely need to be keeping an eye. But I'm sure through these forums, these conversations, as stuff is developing, more and more, we'll come our way. I think there's huge opportunity to not have to do lots of boring crap in a business using AI. I'm excited about that.
Good stuff. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Brett, thank you very, very much for your time, for taking the time to write the paper and put your thoughts down and challenging all of us to, to think about this stuff. And for all you do for the profession. Thank you very much, Brett. And gents and ladies, thank you very much for coming, for, taking the time out of the business. I'm sure there are more important stuff that you all could be doing. Instead, you chose to spend the time with Brett and I. So I am grateful for your time, for your wisdom. And I hope that, our conversation this morning, afternoon, has, stirred you to, think a little bit more, be a little bit more intentional. You are certainly be a little bit more intentional about the type of business that you're building. And I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. Brett, do you have any final words, any thoughts, anything else?
No, I'm talked out. But thanks for tuning in. I hope it's been valuable for people.
Thank you, guys. I've enjoyed this. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.